I call the meeting to order, stand for the pledge, and do us to stand remaining. We're gonna have an opening prayer. The pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand, bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for having given this community of Blissfield the freedom through your Son to live as citizens of your kingdom. We pray that by the gifts of your Spirit, we may all live honorably and prudently with all the men and women and citizens of Blissfield. We'd ask tonight that you keep our counsel from becoming indiscreet, from acting rashly, from neglecting the rights of others, from willful disobedience, and the neglect of just laws, and from all manners of mischief that is or could be harmful to this community. It's a tough job, and I'm sure that nobody else here would like that job. But let us be kind and courteous to each one of them. Ask that you give them the readiness to share the burdens of this community right now, the willingness to attempt solutions to the problems right now, and the zeal to join in efforts for the common good of our village. Make us, the citizens in the community, effective voices in government through public discussion with them, petitions, debates, use of the ballot, and other means. Help us all to accept cheerfully the opportunities for service in the village of Blissfield at every level. We give you thanks, Father, for all the volunteers that were out there today setting up for our Yuletide festivities this weekend. Aid each member of the community here tonight to manage their affairs sensibly when talking with our local government officials. Be polite, listen to them, and then let them make their decisions. By your grace, enable all of us to overcome temptations and do what is pleasing only to you by faith in you, our Lord Jesus Christ. We ask you tonight to strengthen all of the council members here and to sustain our faith, oh God, that we will always walk in obedience to you. Amen. Amen.
We call a roll.
Bob Valdez.
Here.
Glenn Dusa. Present. Mike Gunner.
Here.
Barbara Henry. Present. James Edison.
Present.
Jerry Day.
Here.
Tim Waters.
Here. On to the regular minutes of October 25th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to move to approve the regular minutes of October 25th, 21 as presented.
I'll support that. Moved and supported, approved the regular minutes of October 25th, 2021 as presented.
Tim.
Yes.
Barb.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Gwen.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes. Minutes approved. Motion to approve the closed session minutes of October 6th, 2021.
I move to approve the closed session minutes of October 6th, 2021 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to move to approve the closed session minutes of October 6th, 2021 as presented.
Bob, may I make a comment
Yeah,
at this time
go ahead.
before you take the vote? I just, for everybody here and for council, wanted to make a statement that these minutes are on the agenda for approval and will be available for public inspection or record. Because we did find that we did go into closed session by mistake. We are required to have 2/3 vote. I do apologize for that. Lesson learned. Unfortunately, we cannot undo what has happened in the past. So this is an effort to own up to our mistake, learn from it, and put that information out to the public if they so choose to look at that. But I just wanted to, I guess, make that statement. If you have questions, let me know. Thank you.
Call the roll.
Jerry,
No.
Gwen,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Barb,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike.
No.
Bob,
Yes. Minutes approved. Motion to approve closed session minutes of October 25th, 2021.
I'll move to approve the closed session minutes of October 25th, 2021 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve closed session minutes of October 25th, 2021 as presented. You have a comment on that one, Danielle?
Be the same.
Same comment. Call.
Mike,
No.
Tim,
No.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jerry,
No.
Bob,
Yes. Presentations and communications, meeting calendar for regular meeting council for 2022. Well as the Parks and Rec Advisory Board 2022 meeting calendar. As well as the Planning Commission 2022 calendar.
It's the same thing.
That's what my understanding is.
So they are placed under presentations and communications because this council has approved the bylaws for both of those boards, which state the meeting dates. Therefore, the meeting dates are already set. However, it is for public information and to invite the people and make sure that they know to have these calendars. It's really handy and nice to do that. So I wanted to put it on there, but you don't necessarily need a motion because it's in line with what we've already approved.
It's like on a presentation communication Thursdays. Thursday is Veterans Day, so we'd like to thank the veterans for their services.
Yeah.
I have, I would like to say something right now, and because I wanted to get it right, because I don't usually do this, I wrote it all down, so I'm just gonna read it for you. I would like to set the record straight on a few issues that have come to light in the last few weeks. Number one, according to the advance and Mr. Jones, the council fired Administrator Joe Fry last December. I made that motion. And I made a motion to not renew Joe Fry's contract. The motion passed. That is not firing him. His personnel file does not say he was fired. Please, if you doubt me, look it up in the past minutes. His contract was up and we chose not to renew it. If you want the reasons why, come ask one of us. Maybe we'll talk to you. Number two. Well, maybe there's some things that can't be said, is all. Number two, according to the advance, 4 members of council refused to attend a special meeting on October 22nd. We did not refuse. 1 member was in Florida. 1 was ill and coughing profusely. 1 was at work. And 1 was at his son's football game. How was that refusing to come? We had prior commitments and illness. Number 3, easier to go into closed session. I read that. No way, no how. We do not like going into closed session any more than you like seeing us do that. But sometimes there is necessity for it. Like employee relations issues and attorney-client privileges. Sometimes things just have to wait before going to the public. Number 4, concerning a letter to the editor. in quote, Valdez said he discussed it, prayer, with Martin McHenry, end quote. I said to Bob that we had gotten away from a prayer starting our meetings. We did. I suggested that we bring it back. That's not saying anything wrong. It's not leading into any other discussion that we should not have had. It is not a disregard for anything. When you see an incorrect item in print, shouldn't you wonder what else is inaccurate? Please, please stop all the innuendos and gossip and false truths. Find a little patience. Let us do the job you elected us to do. That's all.
Thanks, Barb. Public comment? Move on the agenda.
Jim Wanacott, 314 Franklin Street here in Blissfield. The first thing is, would it be possible to double check the Open Meetings Act, unless it's changed in the last year and a half? Public bodies are required to adopt their meeting calendar up to and including the first meeting of their calendar year. Might want to look at that. So to your question, when a motion at some point may be necessary.
I believe Administrator Gross addressed that when she stated that the motions had been made prior, along when we adopted the bylaws for those particular groups. Would that be accurate?
As always, I will look into your feedback to make sure we're following the rules correctly.
I was specifically referring to the village council meeting calendar. And a couple things before I say the meat of my comments. And those of you who were on council when I was administrator or who visited a meeting might find the next thing hard to believe, but I'm going to try to be short and succinct. And I'm only speaking for myself. Following are my opinions. I suspect, based on my conversations with other people, that some folks might agree with them, but these are simply my opinions. The situation that's going to come up on item number 1 at the agenda tonight regarding the continued employment of Police Chief Dale Greenleaf has been going on for at least 2 months. If there were something sufficient enough to warrant termination, A, we would think it would have been done by now, and B, to Barb's point, we all, or at least a lot of us, would think that we would know why that's happening. Neither of those have occurred yet. So I find myself wondering what's really going on. Part of the problem with closed meetings is that we don't know what's really going on, whether we should or shouldn't, do or don't. The fact is that we don't. So I wonder, the things that were in the newspaper last week from Danielle's September 16th email to council, are those reasons for termination? Are they an excuse for termination? It appears to me, and again, this is just my opinion, that there may be personal vendettas or agendas at play here against the police chief by certain members of council. We may never know what the real reason is, should the chief be terminated. And if he's not terminated, why we're even having this discussion at all. I hope at some point we do. And I don't say the following lightly. I spent a career in government. But some of you who ran this past November ran on a platform of accountability and transparency. And at no point in the campaign was the termination of staff included in your platform. Yet, in my opinion, we have not seen accountability or transparency. And we have seen terminations, whether it was, we can mince words, whether you just simply didn't extend Joe's contract, it's still a form of voluntary termination. And you did that immediately following the election. So again, I have to ask, what's really going on here? It appears to me, again, just my opinion, that perhaps you were elected on fraudulent terms. That'll all come out in the wash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps our attorney could address some of the rationale of the length of the process, because I would think that council, whether the belief from the public is that the council would have liked this to have been addressed and done by now as well. Could you address the legalities of why we have had to do what we have had to do, and why at this moment we are not allowed to say what we would very much like to say and explain? I know it's been, Mr. Shaver has tried to explain things as clearly as he could. Perhaps you could make it even more clear.
Well, when you're talking about employee matters, those things are very sensitive. And the law requires a certain level of confidentiality and discretion when you're dealing with employee matters. Without going into detail, which I'm not really at liberty to do in this session, there has been quite a bit of discussion and quite a bit of activity in relation to employee matters here at the village. So to say that it's taken a long time, things have moved along as appropriately as it could, including, we have this on the agenda this evening. So those discussions have just continued, and nobody wants a resolution to those matters than I'm sure any of you and any of the residents of Blissfield. But when you're dealing with employee matters, those things are sensitive, and sometimes discussions have to take place that take a little bit of time.
Will the council, will the residents ever find out, be able to have, this is, I think, the big picture. Will they ever be able to find out what our discussions are regarding? Will they ever be able to hear the rationale for any of this?
If any, what I can say is that any discussions that occur in closed session, in a properly voted on closed session, any discussions or anything that comes out of any discussions within that closed session, for example, tonight is going to be a closed session at the request of Chief Greenleaf. Anything that is said during that in that closed session will not be disclosed. Of course, any actions that result from discussions that occur in closed session will occur in open session. But whether or not details of
Details is a good word.
whether details will come out about those sorts about some of the things that are going to be discussed in closed session regards to the chief, they may very well not become public because that's the way the law works.
So are you saying the chief has requested a closed session?
That is my understanding. It's on the agenda.
It doesn't state that he requested a closed session.
Well, it says closed session, but the reason is it's his request. And that's his prerogative under the Open Meetings Act for him to go into closed session.
So the state statute is listed for you guys, because up until that agenda item, he has the ability to waiver to decide, commit to that, ask for it, or to change his mind and do it publicly. So he has up until that agenda item to make whatever decision, which route he'd like to go.
So has he made, I'm sorry.
That's why there's no closed session until he formally makes the request at the meeting.
Has he requested that already?
He has not requested that, no. It has been indicated that that's the plan, but again, until the actual agenda item, that is subject to change. And that's solely up to him. He is the only one that has that ability.
That is correct. And if he does, then you can go into closed session then by simple majority vote. You don't require the supermajority vote at that point.
Because he is the one, if he chooses to, makes that request.
That is correct. And Danielle is correct. It's his choice. He has not made the formal request because that has not come up on the agenda item. But it has been indicated to us that he may be requesting that, and so that's why it's on the agenda.
Understand.
And
Thanks for clarifying.
as far as the agenda goes, that item, because of,
I was going to bring that up when you did approval of the agenda, if we're ready to move on to that.
yeah, that's what I,
Okay.
No, I just want to address the Joe Frey for everyone. I chose not to say anything the night we chose not to renew his contract. I do not believe in publicly defaming anyone. But I was open and honest about my position about his leadership all throughout that election. In fact, it's in print, getting the right people in the right positions, and we have work to do. It was a 4-3 vote in June. All these council, well, actually Tim wasn't there, but I was the only difference in November, December when that second vote happened. So for us to be accused of a lack of transparency, when I ran on a platform of change and I had multiple conversations with anybody that wanted to come and talk to me, I held open meetings at the coffee shop across the street. I saw people in my yard, on the sidewalk, met with multiple people during the election sitting up here. They all knew my position. So in no way is Joe Frey and that vote a reflection of what's going on here. This is a completely separate incident. This has nothing to do with the former. To continually bring that back up is a complete misunderstanding of this council's progression from after he left with Darwin and then Danielle. And that's to deny us a ton of tangible progress over the course of a year. Anybody that worked with Joe has an opinion of him. But this village is better off with more mature leaders at this point in time than what he was able to offer then. I liked him, he was a nice guy, it was a business decision, as is this one tonight. We're elected to make decisions based upon what's best for the village, not personal agendas, not personal relationships. That's what the Joe Frey decision was about. That's what tonight is about as well. Business. Thank you.
we're gonna move on to the agenda. And as we move on to the agenda, Danielle, would you like to?
Yes, I would like to respectfully request that you guys can approve the agenda as presented, but that we be able to skip number 1 under unfinished business until roughly or approximately 8 p.m. as Chief Greenleaf's attorney has other engagement. He is present in person, but he is attending a meeting virtually, and allow him to be able to come out with the chief at that time for that agenda item. So we can keep things kind of as they are, just skip that one, move along, and then as they're available, jump back to that one, if you guys would please do so.
Okay, with everyone, we're gonna need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented with the exception of unfinished business item number 1, and that to be held when Chief Greenleaf and his attorney are available.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. You get that? You got it, right? All right, you can call the roll on that.
Gwen,
I think it's interesting that we know that we're here scheduled for a 7 o'clock meeting, and yet we are going to go ahead and be cordial to go ahead and let this happen at 8 o'clock when full well this agenda was out in time. But I will go ahead and say yes.
James,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes, agenda approved. Item number 2,
Council, as previously discussed, we posted the wastewater treatment plant supervisor position internally. There was a committee of myself, Clerk Novak, and Trustee Eitzen who did interviews. We are recommending to proceed with Randy Rattan as our supervisor. I just would like to say that both applicants are very strong. This was a hard decision. And the recommendation is coming to you as what we feel would be the best moving forward for the village. And Randy is here as well. If you guys have questions for him at all, or if you have any for me, please let me know.
I do have questions for you, Danielle, if I may, please. And within the background brief and the wages, both gentlemen have understand the change in the wages and.
Yes, I have spoke to both of them about where their wages will be, because we will be needing to drop Steve back down as an operator. So what I did in figuring his wages, I calculated where he was before, included, we do pay 25 cents for each certification. So I factored that in, and then recently through the budget process, we gave employees a 3%. So we made sure he didn't lose that as well. And then Randy would be put at the supervisor, if I could talk, supervisor wage, and his also includes his certifications.
And the starting date would be considered tomorrow, then after as the vote goes through, is that how that would work? Or when would that change take place?
I guess that's a good question. I envision tomorrow.
Okay, I'm just wondering as well. Okay, all right, thank you.
So is Steve good with this move?
Yes, yep, Steve, I did talk to him. He's a huge asset for the village. He's been in this line of work for an extremely long time. He has indicated that he'll support Randy. He's going to continue working with us. As everybody knows, we have a major project out there and we really value his expertise, but yes, he's good with this. He's willing to continue working with us and share that knowledge, and again, hopefully we can all work together and grow. I think permanent resolution to this issue will be beneficial for the village rather than continuing in kind of this limbo stage.
This is the time that we had determined that we were going to have the discussion, and that's exactly what you followed through with. Just as James has alluded to, we continue as council to go forward on many aspects with our following through on our words. Thank you. I'll make a recommendation unless there's anybody else that has something that they wanted to say. Okay, I'll go ahead and move to appoint Randy Rattan to the wastewater treatment plant supervisor at a rate of $28.84 and modify Steve Shields' position to plant operator at a rate of $26.24.
I'll second. Moved and seconded to appoint Randy Rattan to the wastewater treatment plant supervisor at the rate of $28.84, modify Steve Shields' position to plant operator at rate of $26.24. Any other discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb,
yes,
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Congratulations, Randy.
Thank you.
Peek out here, Randy.
You gotta come out here.
Come on, yay!
You did it.
Section seven, new business, number one payroll.
Motion to approve the payroll register for October 2021 in the amount of $104,660.82.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the payroll register for October 21 in the amount of $104,660.82. Are there any questions? You call the roll, Lisa.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. On to the number two, accounts payable bills for October 21.
Make a motion to approve accounts payable for the period of October 13th, 2021 to November 9th, 2021 in the amount of $397,117.90.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the accounts payable for the period of October 13th, 2021 to November 9th, 2021 in the amount of $397,117.90. Any questions on the bills? You can call the roll, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, the bills are paid. Number three, approve management differential pay, Sergeant Wagner.
Council, I am recommending and requesting that we, for our personnel policy, pay Sergeant Wagner $2 per hour more, as he has been acting in a higher capacity for today, 7 weeks. Our policy does state that that is back paid. I did calculate roughly, and this is very rough estimate, we're looking at about $493 a month, but again, to be in line with what we've done in the past, what our policy says, I'm recommending that you receive that pay.
And I'm assuming you've discussed this with Sergeant Wagner.
He
Does he want the money?
I'm pretty sure he does not want to take less or work for free, so yes, we have discussed and he's aware of my recommendation, so.
I'll make a motion to approve management differential pay of $2 an hour for Sergeant Wagner until such time there's a permanent resolution in regards to the chief. Backdate pay to September 14th, 2021.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve management differential pay of $2 an hour for Sergeant Wagner until such time there's a permanent resolution in regards to the chief and backdate pay to September 14th, 2021. Any comments? You can call the roll.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Motion carried. Number four, legal services, RFP.
So a couple things on this. One, I would like to address, I guess, the last meeting or maybe some different things, rumors, whatever we want to call them. The last meeting, our legal was not present following the closed session. I just would like to make it very clear that this agenda item has been on my to-do list since I started. Regarding the last meeting, he did leave, council did come out of closed session immediately. Then they did not continue without legal counsel. This item is on here in order to get permanent resolution to legal services and to get away from the interim status. So I guess one, I know that's kind of sidetracked, but I thought it was important to bring that up. And I'm not gonna go into all the details of what transpired or why, but the second part is I'm bringing this to council. It's not yet been put out as a proposal. For one major reason, I'm needing some feedback. So currently, we can put this out for proposals a couple different ways. One, we can solicit legal services for the village as a whole to be inclusive of prosecution and civil matters by one legal representative. Option two would be that we continue as we are in the interim where it's separated. We have an attorney for our civil matters and kind of day to day, and then we have an attorney for our prosecution side of things. Third option is we could request proposals where they can submit either way, and then you select once you get back from them. My only concern with the third option is being fair and evaluating them and reviewing when you're almost comparing apples to oranges if you're getting proposals submitted different ways. That not saying you can't do it, we would just, what I would recommend if that's the route we go is what I will do is just kind of, I'll look at our evaluation criteria a little bit different to make sure we're being as fair as possible in that. If you guys make a motion to letting me know which direction to go, I will get this legal services RFP out for proposals and then it'll come back to you guys for actual award.
Just for the public out there, we are using the split version right now.
Yes, correct. So currently Shadler and Lacoste are our civil and then Jeff Jubai is prosecution.
And we can continue that same proposal as we did previously, is what I'm hearing you say.
So when we submit proposals, yes, we can continue keeping them separate, or we can do it as one combined, which is, I believe, how it was before the interim services, where it was just one.
I'd like to say, even though council came out after the closed session, after the attorney departed, I was disappointed in the attorney leaving like he did. And second, I believe the attorney led us astray into going into closed sessions under letter H. Highly disappointed and lack of professionalism and not knowing the rulings. We leaned on our attorney to guide us in the right direction, and we were led the wrong way. And I'd like to say to the public, I apologize for not knowing that ruling myself. Since then, I know. So just so everyone knows, our attorney led us in the wrong direction, and I'm very disappointed.
I know that I responded, Danielle, to your comments when you had emailed us information with your update, and you had provided that there had been an error made. And I know I had emailed my disappointment in our representation at that time as well. We obviously do, as you say, Tim, we lean on our representation to guide us in the accurate way. I understand that, but I was under the impression that it was going to be explained why the attorney left.
Do you want to comment on that, Wayne?
Sure, Mr. Shaler and I had a different opinion during the discussions in the closed session. He elected to leave at that time. And there's not much else to say. I still respect Mr. Shaler. Emotions and tensions were high, as I'm sure you can all understand. You know, was I happy with the way that he just left? No, absolutely not. But I still do respect Mr. Shadler, and you know, the firms obviously still 12 representing us for the time being. So we do have the village covered regarding attorney services. But I don't think there's much else to say besides that, is we had a difference of opinion and Mr. Shadler elected to leave at that time.
Thanks, Mike, for sharing.
I appreciate that.
All right, move on. We have a motion to move to advertise request for proposals for legal services.
Sorry, I think we have to have discussion.
We don't have a motion.
You have not made a motion.
No, we haven't made a motion. I was just gonna read that. If you want to make a motion, or if you want to have discussion now, let's have the discussion. Are you wanting to keep it the way it is as far as when we make the proposal, or would you rather have it?
I guess I have a question. How often do those two sides, the civil side, the prosecutorial side, how often would they have to talk to one another? You know what I mean? If we do one firm for the civil stuff, prosecutorial services, on the other side, is there any time where it'd be more beneficial just to have one firm?
I'm
versus
not
split?
going to say never, but I would say it would be fairly rare. Usually they're pretty separate topics.
Right.
Of course, there's always some situation I'm not thinking of where it's possible, but
I know prior to when we had met as the team that had come together regarding the interim services, prior to that meeting that we had, I had contacted some of the other villages / cities in Lenawee County to see what their practices were, and it was a divided kind of a thing. Some of the villages, cities go ahead and have the same attorney, but it was not uncommon, and I was surprised to see that it was not uncommon for them to have one attorney for one area and one attorney for another. So as far as it being one way or the other, 100%, or would we be in the minority with our choice, it would not be. I was surprised at that. I just assumed everybody had the same attorney, but that was not the case. I'm just putting it out there, that I
Yeah, I
did do that
appreciate
research
that.
on that.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Well, for me, it's about two things. One, cost, obviously, that's always a concern, but number two, are we gonna have the proper municipal representation? That I feel that we've been misguided as of recent, but we want somebody that knows the municipal aspect of it and how that operates and those kinds of laws that we need to follow. Again, to give us the proper guidance on how we need to operate. And then two, somebody that's gonna be strong prosecutorial wise. Obviously, we want some history in that. We need somebody that's gonna work with the police, that's gonna work with the court system and represent the best interests of the village as well. Can we get that out of one person? I believe we probably could. My recommendation would be to just do an A, B, and C, whether you do, the one service of representing the village, one is being prosecutor, and then, one is if you do both aspects of it, and then that way we can kind of pick and choose and get a guidance of.
So they could have, the attorney could apply for the A, the B, or the C route.
Correct, yeah,
Well, that's a good idea,
and then break it down price wise as well, what, if it's a.
which is kind of what was done before when we did
Correct.
it, when we did the intro. That's a good point.
and cost is part of the proposal. So they're going to, part of the request for proposal, they'll provide what option you're submitting, what their prices are, and they can do that a couple different ways in the proposal. They can say, okay, that we require a retainer, this is what it'll cover, or this is our hourly rate. It'll also cover their experience in whichever way they submit. And there's some references as well. So then once we'll evaluate each individual firm based on those different criteria and things that we've asked for.
My only other recommendation would be that we also go outside county. It may not make a lot of sense, but again, to keep the prosecution side out of it, as well as, getting the best candidate out there. It doesn't have to be a representative from Lenawee County. I would at least expect maybe Washington or Jackson area as well.
I liked what we did for the interim, how we proceeded with the interim. I thought that was nice. We had options to choose from. And that's the ABC model that Mike was referring to.
Do you have direction now?
If that is how you guys would like to proceed, you can just approve them as presented because
Okay.
all of those options are already listed in the proposal.
All right, then.
I'll make a motion to move to advertise the request for proposals for legal services as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to advertise a request for proposals for legal services as presented. Any other comments? You call the roll, Lisa.
Barb? Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. Action 5. Approve payment of wastewater treatment plant improvement project.
So later in the agenda, I was going to give an update to the wastewater treatment plant. However, this item is for 2 pay applications for both for our contractor LaSalle. One was for the month of September and the smaller one was for October, as there's not been a ton of work being done in October. The total is the 1 million, just over 1 million, 1.3 million. If approved, this will go through the same process as the others. It'll be submitted to USDA and things like that. If you have questions, let me know. Denise is also online if you have specific questions for our engineer regarding these payments, as they have been reviewed by them too.
Are you comfortable with the payments that are given here, based upon the work / lack of work / intention of lack of work that are going to be taking place?
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unfortunately,
It's not an easy way to have to answer, I understand.
I would think at this point, our only bargaining chip is lack of payment.
So, I don't disagree with James at all. My concern in not paying them is what I don't want to do is to put the village at risk of violating any portion of our side of the contract. And that would be my major concern if we do not approve these payments. To say on the other side that I'm comfortable with the progress and the status of this project at this point, I can't do that if I'm being honest. The contractor has unfortunately had some issues with pipe procurement that has been in. I also think that they're leaning on that a lot and using COVID-19 as a crutch, for lack of a better word, or an excuse rather, and there's been poor project time management.
Based on whom? Would that be a Poggemeyer issue?
No, I
LaSalle
think that's a
issue?
LaSalle issue.
Okay.
They have had, and again, it's hard because you can't go back and change the past, but they were awarded this contractor in November of 2020, yet they failed to order any material until April. They can't really blame Poggemeyer for that because they submitted submittals in April, got them back from Poggemeyer within, I think it was 10 days total, including weekends, and then ordered things. So they started off behind right from the get-go. I also think they've had crews sitting around not being very productive and then wanting to pay for that time. So we should be about 50% through the project. We're at about 26%. They had notified us that they were looking at an extension when I first came on back in July. I had reached out to Eagle immediately. In fact, my first week before I even knew that, I reached out to Eagle. They wanted to have a discussion in March. They kind of mentioned it here again, then dragged their feet, and a week before they wanted to shut the project down, finally submitted a letter with 2 options. One being that they shut down through the winter and we pay them another $600-some thousand. Option 2, they work through the winter and we pay them another 1.2. which is crazy. That's not realistic. That's just extremely frustrating. We did have a meeting with them. It does seem that they would like to move the project forward. I definitely understand some of their frustrations. I think that the pandemic's been hard on all of us. But we don't have any more money. We've already taken a loan out from USDA. USDA has been very involved in conversations. They have made it very clear that they'll give us more time, but they will not give us more money. Eagle right now, again, my last discussion was we'll talk in March. They were at the meeting last week. So I have committed to LaSalle that we will go back to Eagle and have some serious conversations about where we're at and how we can move forward and look at extensions at least and have that conversation. I'm willing to work with them as much as we can, but again, this is just, it's a huge project and this company does them all over. This isn't their first time.
You're referring to LaSalle all
Yes,
the time.
LaSalle.
Okay.
This isn't the first time they've done a project. In fact, to them, this is probably a smaller project. I know for the village, 7 point, it feels huge, but yeah, that was a very long answer, sorry.
No, that's a very thorough answer. So what's Pogemeyer's stance on this? I mean, are they not supposed to be assisting in this whole situation, 52 or 50% versus the 26?
So I don't want to speak for Denise, but I can say that they are our project managers, our representatives for this project. So it's not their job to tell the contractor how to do their job. They can make recommendations, they can, give guidance, try to push things along as much as they can to help to, if they want to change the schedule, it's Pogemeyer's job to work with them and us, but they can't tell them this is how many employees you're going to have in the equipment and how you do your job.
But they can certainly assist when they can see that difference of percentage of completion.
They were assembling.
Hi, this is Denise Plummer with Pogemeyer, if I could speak for a minute.
Go ahead, Denise.
Okay, yes. No, I agree with everything you're saying. We review everything and go back and forth with LaSalle, even before we give it to Danielle and Randy and Steve to review. And we go back many times. The letters that we got, with their 2 options on what they wanted to do, we dissected them and I marked them up and we sent them all to Danielle, to review with our opinions and what we can do. But she's 100% correct that we cannot tell them means and methods at all. All we can do is tell them that they have to do what's in the contract with the plans and specs, and this is your completion date. As far as the pay requests go, we do review those and we go back and make changes if we don't agree with those percentage completes. The ones that are on your table now is work that they actually did do. They have asked for additional, and we obviously aren't giving it to them because they haven't performed that work. So the work that they have done till now is part of the contract and has been completed, and that's the only reason that we recommended the pay request to Danielle to put before the council.
Denise and Danielle, have they come back with a new timeline and options as was discussed in that meeting?
At this point, we did receive an update from Giovanni, who's the project lead on this, indicating that they are about 85% complete with that. They're waiting on a couple things. So no, I've not received that yet. Did get the update. We did, part of that meeting as well was, we're going into winter, obviously colder weather. The village at that time, I did commit that we would look for some storage space. The village was able to do that. In fact, I have to give a huge thank you to Brent, who helped me with that while I was at training last week. But Blissfield Manufacturing has a heated storage area that they're willing to rent out. So we've completed our part of that conversation and we are waiting for them at this time. And then just to add to what.
Just to add to that, that won't add anything to this project. The village is only putting the 2 together. We are not facilitating the storage of any equipment. We're just getting Blissfield Manufacturing and the contractors together.
right, we connected.
We were not
the two.
absorbing that cost.
So, however,
I don't hear that being said yet.
there is a
That's what
cost.
was said in the meeting.
There is a cost for storage, and it sounds like Blissfield Manufacturing is requesting insurance. I have told them that we are not covering the insurance, that that's required for LaSalle regardless of where the materials are stored. But if we need to pay $35 a month to keep it here and not have to transport it 80 miles one way, I am willing to do that and have told them that.
Yeah, their proposal was for the village, one of their additional costs in that $1 million extra or whatever was to haul the equipment back to their shop 90 miles. And so you'd be paying for, I mean, that's what they were requesting. Obviously, we were not agreeing to any of that. But this was being able to move it even off-site into a facility in the village or not in the village was actually trying to meet in the middle with USDA, because USDA is always very firm that all equipment, once it is tied to the project and paid for stored materials, that it remains on site. So this was actually USDA trying to help out the village and trying to help, the project, saying, okay, you can take it off site as long as it's, marked definitely for this project and that kind of thing. So I just, everybody, like Danielle said, I mean, everybody is trying to help make this work, even if it's not what we've ever been allowed to do on a USDA project before.
Yeah, that's not entirely true. The gentleman from USDA did make the concession that they could take it back to their shop. That was the one concession he made. He wouldn't make any other concessions on cost or funding.
Correct. No, correct. I'm just saying that he's even allowing them to take it off site. Usually that's a hard no with USDA.
Who's hauling it off site?
The cost.
LaSalle.
LaSalle is hauling it off site as well.
Yes, them or their stuff.
The equipment in question is pumps and valves that are scheduled to go inside heat controlled buildings or environmentally controlled buildings. So they can't sit out under 30 degrees. They'll start to go bad. So they've got to get inside quite quickly.
Yes.
So that time is of the essence. I would say until we get a revised timeline from Giovanni that we withhold payment. At the very least, they were supposed to have something to us by the end of the week. That was Friday. That deadline's passed. Here we are Monday. Still waiting. This seems to be the approach they take. So the only thing we can do to speed up, at least get an answer, is to withhold payment. Put it on the next council meeting for approval, or break out the amounts. But I would say this is really our only bargaining chip at this point.
And your pleasure, but I just do want to be clear that this would be less retainage as well. We are still withholding retainage on all pay applications.
It
Not
almost
that
sounds,
I don't understand where you're coming
it almost
from.
sounds deja vu pool. Deja vu pool.
And I wasn't here for
I know
that,
you
so I
weren't.
can't
I
speak
know you
to
weren't.
it, but
But
I
there's
can.
a common denominator in this situation. And I'm not understanding where Pogemeyer sits on this. I mean, Denise, I hear where you're coming from, but look, why are we hiring you?
I don't think the pool project was ours.
What are you doing for us? I don't quite understand. I really don't.
Well, wait a minute. I think this is two different issues. I don't think the pool project was a Pogemeyer project.
Pogemeyer was not a part of the pool?
No.
My apologies.
I would agree with James. We're gonna go to litigation over this regardless. They're already breaking the contract, they're breaking the timeline, they're breaking the costs. This is, again, gonna be another pain in the butt for us. It's just, I'm with James, until we get more information. There's no reason to pay them out, because they can fight us for it, but we're gonna fight them in court anyway to get the project completed.
So may I recant my, or reclaim my statement? It is deja vu pool. with issues. So it's not deja vu Pokemon,
Contractors.
but it's deja vu contractors. Okay.
Yes, but we're not under NEC, the pool wasn't under NECO, as is this project. Eagle is pretty firm about their deadline being met. USDA is firm about the funding that they will provide. The village has no other additional funds. This has to get done on budget, on time. There's
Yeah.
really no other way around it, right?
That's absolutely
They accepted the
correct.
project for a certain cost at a certain time frame.
Knowing that we had an AOC and.
We even built in a cushion. And I will say in the meeting, Holdermeyer did very well representing the village.
And I, just to add to that, they have been very good working through, I mean, when we got this delay in these letters, going through the contract and pulling out all the different pieces and talking to us, and so I will add that too. It has been, it's been nice to have them on the same page as us, and I think beneficial moving forward, so. Again, this is hard. I mean, it's what I've done a lot of larger infrastructure projects at my last job. I can tell you there was one in my time that did not go well, and it ended up costing the city a ton of money. I don't want to see that happen with this job, and I think we are catching this and getting in front of it late, but sooner than a lot of communities do. And when it gets really bad, we've had important conversations with LaSalle. They know exactly where we stand. So hopefully, I'm hoping that we can all come together on this and be able to move this project forward. And James, we have to. I mean, Eagle is, we push this as far as we can. We don't have a choice. We have to get this project done, and we owe it to the citizens. So we have to find a way to do that. And that's been pretty much our message to LaSalle at this point. You guys did this project. You know, I even brought up, if you look at the past bids, if we increase $1.2 million, we could have awarded to 4 other companies before them. I mean, it's just, we don't have any more money. It's just the matter. I mean,
So what do you want us to do with this motion?
so it's, you can approve it tonight. If you would like to go with what James recommended, you could postpone to the next meeting.
All right, then let's.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
As of today, LaSalle will be back on site Monday. Working with all their subs. A vast majority of this pay request is materials. Everything that we've been waiting on for the last 6 months. How this goes if we don't approve the pay request, regardless of the fact, I think we're paying you, we're gonna have to pay it anyways. Or forfeit what materials are in there potentially, I don't know how that works. Of which is just gonna cause a massive delay. How that whole situation would play out, I don't know. If they find out, you know, tomorrow, they deny your pay request. All right, why are we gonna continue to work? Start working again, I guess I should say. If they've already denied our pay request, whether that pushes us back another 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 months. But like I said, with it, most of it being material cost.
This is your project now, Randy. What do you want us to do? I hate to put the burden on you.
I want it to go.
All right.
Because it just, we kicked this can down.
You understand our position,
I
right?
fully understand.
Okay.
I get it.
And I heard you in the meeting and you weren't too far off from my position either.
No.
Pretty frustrated, lack of effort on their part, lack of progress.
Yes, and a lot of that has to do with, again, the inability to get materials. A chunk of that falls on LaSalle and their subs. But I'd hate to have us shoot ourselves in the foot.
All right.
Randy, how much of the piping is on site now?
As far as actual ductile, I think all there is one piece of 24 inch.
And it's just sitting there waiting to be installed?
No, we've got, yeah, everything except for that one piece is. Most of what was left was interior pieces. Of which they're not needing anyways, because there's not a building to put it in.
Right.
So.
Well, let's move forward with this motion.
Thanks for saying something. We need to hear from you.
Yeah, we appreciate your input.
I guess I have one last question for Denise. Are you still there, Denise?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yes, I am.
Talk about having, crews on site with nothing to do or whatever, how do we control? Or, does Pokemon really over, checks and balances, say, to make it easy, okay, 50 feet of digging in trench and laying pipe for, is 10 grand, and now they want to charge us 15 grand. How are we having a checks and balances on that we're not gonna pay above and beyond what the original contract was? We're not gonna pay them to sit around because they're doing whatever, or that the materials aren't there.
Correct. And no, I agree with you. And we have not. Because it's a lump sum project, and then they have to supply a schedule of values, which means they have to give us, for all these different line items, they have to give us what amount of their bid they put towards that line item.
Okay,
So,
those line items aren't increasing, correct?
They will not be increasing, no. And that's what they, they're saying, oh, we did. And that's where we go back and forth before we even recommend it and send it on to Danielle. Ken McGowan, who's our representative on site for Pogemeyer, he comes back to us and goes, nope, they want 25%. They've only done 15. So that's where we go back and forth, before we submit that to Danielle. And we've actually done something that we don't typically do, is that we asked for their invoices from FM Sylvan, who is their big mechanical sub. And we have asked for those invoices for their labor to back up what we want to, what we're willing to recommend to the village. So we are, very much on those, and they will not, to complete the work, the current work that they're supposed to do, there would be no reason to increase those line items. And we said that in the last meeting where, they're like, well, cost increase. And we're like, no, those were locked in. That's the whole point of a contract. You locked in those prices with your POs and what have you. So that was part of that discussion with the contractor. But yeah, no, they aren't going to get, 150% of a line item if they've only completed what was originally included in the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, then we have to recommend a motion.
Move council approved to pay, let's say, app number 7, app number 8. Total amount $1,376,715.12 is requested.
I'll support that. Support Randy.
There's a motion and support. Lisa, can you call the roll on that motion as presented?
Tim,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, the motion carried.
Chief is ready with his legal, if we could jump back to that. right
Okay, we're
now.
going back to unfinished business number 1.
Just real quick on that water treatment plant, the wastewater plant. My concern is, we've got a quote 1 get out of jail free card. We're going to try to work with Eagle. On these potential fines or whatever that had built up previously. I don't want to see this project go past to where then we're saying, okay, now we're requesting 2 handouts from them. Again, right? Our contractor needs to understand that they need to bite the bullet, really.
Eagle was present on Thursday and was fairly firm about their dates. So the contractors are aware.
They're as frustrated as we are, hopefully. Eagle is, they understand that this is beyond our control.
Yeah, I do think they understand that, and I've been talking with Tiffany pretty regularly. We've been in transition of getting a new representative, which I think is Alex now, but we'll be having more conversations, and I will keep you guys fully posted as things progress through this
So
project.
Eagle was in attendance Hogemeyer in attendance, LaSalle in attendance.
USDA was in attendance, obviously the village, there was multiple representatives as well.
Sylvan,
Sylvan, yes.
So
one more subcontractor?
I believe it was just Sylvan and LaSalle, if I remember correctly. For contractors, Randy, it was just.
That is correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Thanks, Denise.
I move back to unfinished business number 1.
Well, at this time on the advice of council, I'm requesting closed session.
Right. We have a request to go into closed session. Someone needs to make that motion.
I'll make a motion that we move to closed session at the request of Chief Greenlee.
Can you give the time as well?
Yes, at 8:12.
I do think we need to state the reason for closed session, which is the 15.268,
There we go.
section 8, item A.
Okay,
Sorry, thank you.
I will make a motion to move to closed session at the request of Chief Greenleaf at 8:12 PM in accordance with Michigan law MCL 15.268. Section 8.
A.
A.
Thank you.
You're right.
Support?
Motion made and supported. You call the roll on that motion as presented, Lisa.
Tim,
To honor the chief's request, I will.
Barb,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Closed session began as soon as the room's cleared.
Right, there you go. There you go.
No.
Oh, yeah.